Hello, and thank you for joining us. I am so excited about today. Welcome back to the Eulynn Consulting Podcast. Let's talk everyday equity from add-on to all-in, equity that inspires change. And I'm Anika Farrell, founder and CEO of Eulynn Consulting and this podcast. And every leader wants equity to be embedded into the fabric of their organizations, but guess what? They're using it as a buzzword. But how do you make it part of your daily fabric of your workplace? Today, we're going to explore equity routines, small practices that build lasting change. And our goal today is for listeners to leave with a clear idea of how equity routines help sustain organizational commitment. And I am so honored to have with me Dr. Joy Ross, Chief People Officer of Aurora Public Schools. Thank you so much, Dr. Joy, for being here. I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anika. As you were setting the stage, I felt proud just watching you and seeing you over the last several months. Just take this and run with this. So I had to say that out first. Just excited for you and your journey.
Thank you.
As Anika said, Joy Ross, I am the Chief People Officer, the proud Chief People Officer of Aurora Public Schools in Aurora, Colorado. Also a Bahamian, so you're going to hear a little accent today. Hopefully you'll still hear it, but so honored also to be invited to share with you in this new venture.
Yes, Dr. Joy, and that's what I'm going to call her. She says you can call me Joy, but honey, it's Dr. Joy right now. She is an expert. She is a seasoned professional, and we're going to start with a few questions. When you think of equity routines, how do you define that?
You know, it's interesting, right? I struggle sometimes, and I think you hit on it initially in terms of, the perfunctory way in which equity is considered. I think it really has to be embedded in who you are. And what are those things that make up who you are, those things that are innate in you, the things that you are intentional on embracing, imparting, including, encouraging, building space for. So that's how I think about, this concept of routine. It's much more linked to this is who I want to be. And if this is who I want to be, this is who I am going, this is what I have to do.
Thank you so much for that. And you're talking about this is who I want to be. This is what it's linked to. Do you have any examples that you can share that you've seen in your work or that you've developed that help cultivate that equity routine within the fabric of your space?
I think what comes to mind for me initially, Anika, is the concept of curiosity, humility, the desire to learn, to understand, to explore, because that really challenges, exclusionary types of actions. And I think about cultural humility, right? And positioning oneself to learn and to be humble and to be cognizant that you don't know everything. And so that leaves space for learning. So to me, those would be the routines that I would want to embrace, the routines that I would want to encourage in others, and the way in which I need to show up.
Mm. Exactly. And so do you find that there's any pushback? How do you see that staff is supported by just being able to show up who they are? How do you help cultivate those spaces as a leader just with the humbleness that you talked about, the space that you provide for staff members to do that? What does that look like within the realm of your leadership and the spaces that you cultivate?
Yeah, I think about the the importance of the using of the leader voice. I talk about using your leader voice. And I believe that to whom much is given much is expected. And so ensuring that voices are heard. And sometimes that's my voice in terms of it might be perceived as, challenging the status quo and inviting other voices and challenging voices that have power to ensure that they are creating spaces where other voices that typically are not honored, typically are not
Mm,
heard, are given voice. And so I find that going back to your first question, what I do all the time is use my voice.
mm,
If there was one routine, it would be use my voice
mm,
to
mm,
ensure that all are lifted and silence is not accepted for marginalized communities. So
mm.
that's one thing for sure that they would say about Joy Ross.
Mm. I believe that. You have shown through your connection with me and the way that you hold space with people, the way you support them, the way you help create spaces where you can have a developed equity routine embedded into those spaces. When I think about some of those things that I've seen you do and I've seen in your social media postings. I think about, those equity check-ins, those ways that you have those feedback loops. I notice the way that your staff comes to the table, have those conversations around, what do we need to develop ourselves. I noticed that. How is it that you've moved from Washington State to now Colorado and you're building those systems like that? How is it that you're developing individuals to see the importance of sitting around a table, being able to have marginalized voices that normally are not heard, be able to speak up? How do you speak to that?
It's so interesting as you started to share the concept of inviting people to the table just was forefront in mind. And it might sound simple. It's got to be who you are. I believe in inviting folks to the table. I believe in diverse perspectives. I'm excited by that, right? Because I'm curious, right? I'm going to learn something. I might be challenged, right? I can support in some ways. And so, what you're speaking to in terms of what you've seen on LinkedIn or social media in terms of what's happening with my team, I want to expose them. I want to give them access and opportunity. I've got an administrative assistant who is phenomenal, and she's been invited into spaces that she has never been invited to
Mm,
before, and you can see her growing, right? It's like a flower getting water, right? Like you can
mm,
just see her mind stretching, and she's connecting dots that she hadn't even seen before. That's my job.
mm,
And my
mm,
job is to expose, right? Because I want the best. When we give our workforce, our humans, the people in our lives that we have relationships with, when we expose them to opportunities, we benefit from that. So sometimes I say, you could even say I'm selfish, right? I want the
mm,
best. And if I want the best, I need to invest. And so
mm,
that's what came to mind, Anika, as you shared that. And honestly, it gives me life. And again, it sounds trivial, but I think it goes back to who you are. I
mm,
don't know if we could get into routines with the kind of conviction and consistency if it is not inherently aligned to who we are. I think then
mm.
it's false, it's hard, it's awkward, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but this just a little old lady, sharing her thoughts.
No, this is a magnificent Dr. Joy Ross sharing
Oh
her
my
thoughts. And
God.
I'm just honored to listen to you
Mm,
and to hear the way you support people. People don't have that in organizations. They don't have the leadership that they need to have that makes them feel like they belong. They're safe to speak up. Those are part of equity routines that you're developing, that you're building with your staff and your people. And so I'm honored to have a woman of color in leadership doing those things. And I guess a question that I have in regards to that is, do you believe or think that because you are a woman of color who's had your own lived experiences, that it impacts the way you show up and are able to cultivate those equity routines for your staff?
Oh, absolutely. Not only a woman of color, but an immigrant, right?
Mm.
Bahamian, born and bred, and we have a saying in the Bahamas, born, bred, gone dead. Born to an American father and naturalized citizen mother. So I'm an immigrant with status, with papers,
Mm.
right? Um, but I tell you, it was nothing like waking up being Black in America. I
Mm.
moved here when I was 36 and had been Black all my life. And it was nothing like recognizing what it was like to be Black in America. And I was like,
Mm.
okay. So I got some good experiences, but I'm thankful for all of them because I tell you, each and every one has prepared me for today. What I'm also
Mm.
thankful for is that for whatever reason, I'm not bitter for my experiences. And some of them whooped my behind, trust and believe. And some of that whooping was deserved, right? Because, sometimes when
Mhm.
we talk about a whoop behind, we make it seem like, oh, it never had nothing to do with us. Some of it had to do with me, and some of it didn't. Some of it had to do with the package that I was blessed to be born in,
Mm. Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, make me emotional. And it's breathtaking to have lived experiences, to recognize that they come with the thinking that you're less than.
Mm.
Not a day
Mm.
like it, my friend. Marguerite's daughter and Patsy and and Marriott's niece, not a day like it, less than
Mm.
nothing, right? So use that voice, use that head, right? Use that intellect, use that strategy. Sometimes keep that mouth shut, right? Hey,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, it's
that's
powerful.
powerful. We
And
said it at the
then,
same time. It's
yeah, and
powerful.
then how do I give that to somebody who is interested in that? Because everybody ain't interested in it, and I'm good with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how
Mm-hmm.
do I offer that so that somebody could have the trajectory of their desires, right? Um,
Mm.
I have some women of color on my team, and I feel so grateful to be able to partner with them. And whatever they could take from me that might lighten their load, that might help their load to be more strategically placed. Come on, man. That's what I'm here for.
Oh, you and
Yeah.
that is something because we often see leaders as um, individuals who are scared of losing their power. So they limit what they're sharing and what they're giving to their staff. And how do you cultivate spaces where people are psychologically safe and they belong and they can implement the routines that you're sharing with them if they don't feel like they have opportunities to grow? And what you've said is, you're feeding into people. You are feeding into people through your voice, through your person. You're bringing that. And I think, oftentimes leaders are not able to always do that in a way that it feels genuine and it feels like you're pushing me and moving me towards success. So it's wonderful to hear you share that.
Thank you. I feel grateful to be trusted to do that. Like that's humbling. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, you're wonderful, Dr. Joy. From the day I met you, you have been amazing. I can tell through everything that you've done from, your work here in Washington State and then moving to become chief in Aurora Public Schools. Your impact continues to be dynamic. And so I would like to know if there's any last thing that you'd like to share with our listening audience as a takeaway, something that they can use, that they can implement as they work towards successful equity routines within their organizations, not just for the majority group, but for that often marginalized silence group that doesn't know and doesn't feel always psychologically safe to be present. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I think I might just reiterate something that I said earlier, just in terms of, oftentimes we all have privilege, right? It's interesting how privilege is referred to, and sometimes as people of color, we don't speak often of the privilege that we have, but we are privileged. To your point, I am the chief people officer of Aurora Public Schools. I got privilege, right? Straight up. And I have a responsibility because I have the seat at that table, right? Because my
Mm-hmm.
boss is the superintendent to use my voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would invite people to figure out how to use the voice, and it's nuanced because sometimes maybe you shouldn't use it, right? And you gotta understand when and how, um, and invite people into the table, invite them into spaces. I really think that we need to do more of that, right? I think affinity spaces are powerful and needed, and we need to figure out how to intersect our affinity spaces. Because if we continue to just have, in my estimation, if we continue to just have the affinity spaces siloed, there you go, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so just being able to have a vision for that, to be able to speak to that, to accept the responsibility of how you can influence that.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all have the ability to influence. That, Anika, would be what I would share, just as a closing sentiment. And have fun with it.
That's
Enjoy
right.
it, right?
That's
Love
right.
it.
That's right. And
Yeah.
I can tell that you do. I am so honored to have you occupy this space, come on this podcast, and join me and my listeners. And one thing that I want to share for those listening is equity grows through rhythm and consistency. So, what I encourage you to do is to pick one equity routine that you can start this month, maybe next week, maybe today, and commit to building on it over time. Because we have to be able to do that as we do this work, as we do this equity work. And in order for it to be embedded into the spaces that we occupy, we have to be able to find ways to implement and make sure that it's part of the fabric of your organization. And as I close, I want to say this. This is about embedding equity into the everyday fabric of your organization. Because when equity is a routine, everyone can thrive. And so I want to thank you again, Dr. Joy. Thank you for being here with us. And I look forward to hearing and seeing how your staff grows in the work. And I just want to just say that I'm honored. I'm completely honored to hold space with you. So thank you again.
Thank you, Anika. Ditto, ditto, ditto.
Yes,
I wish
ma'am.
you all the best
Thank
and
you.
expect it from you.
Thank you. Thank you.